Okay guys, we're in the home stretch. We're going to bring our composition in from Illustrator. I'm just making sure that I have my settings correctly. 11 by 17 inches at 300 pixels per inch, and that's pretty much what we need. I'm keeping it at 300 because we may want to print this, or if we want to print this later, we still can do it. So I'm just going to move on over to Illustrator here. Going to select my colored composition. All we have to do is select and copy, do a command copy, and then paste inside of our Photoshop file. And I always paste it as pixels. Now, scaling this up may be a little bit tricky. You could use guides and rulers to help you figure that out. Remember that in Photoshop you do not need to hold shift down to scale it proportionally. So I'm scaling from the middle out, and by holding down the option key while I scale, and that helps out a great deal. So as soon as I do this, I think I end up bringing in guides anyway. So I'm going to bring up rulers in a minute and make sure that my composition is the right proportion based on how we made it in Illustrator. So I'm going to do a Command R, and I'm going to bring up rulers. And this makes sure that I get this right on the money so nothing is distorted or out of place. You can see I can just scale this up. Remember, don't hold shift down and you should be fine. Remember that to change units in the ruler, you just right click on top of the ruler and you can change it to your preferred units. Drawing, I used colored pencil and watercolor for my three hands-on compositions. You do not have to do three, but I wanted to show you what it looks like if you have a lot of compositions, hand-drawn compositions to work with. There's the three. I just open them up. And in order to share them, all I have to do is click and drag and then go back down to my canvas and release my mouse. So click and drag back down to the canvas and release. And all three of those compositions are in that same file, which is nice. I'm going to scale this first one up. You know, initially I didn't think that I liked this, but when we access our blending modes right there, we can scroll down that menu and access our blending modes. Now, blending modes, all you need to know, there are ways that Photoshop can blend color, light, and darkness based on the layer beneath it and what is above it. So it's basically combining all of those things to make like a really interesting look. You can see like I swear it's like Christmas every time I do it. It's one of my favorite things to do inside Photoshop is to play around with the blending modes. We did it for the mural, or at least I showed you a little bit with the mural in Project 1, but look how cool that looks. That one not so interesting, but you can cycle through these, and you can even change the color of your hands-on composition if you want to. Like if it's not what you were after, or it just didn't turn out right, or it's just bothering you, you can always change the colors that you used. So the composition that I picked was more of like a brown orange, and I'm going to show you how to change the colors of that hand drawn just by adding an adjustment layer. And I go back down to the adjustment layer and go to hue saturation, and now I can change the hue. I just added a clipping mask by holding Option down and clicking in between those layers. And now I can adjust those colors of the layer beneath it, which is my hand-drawn composition, which is really cool. And it, again, adjusting all of those sliders for saturation and lightness and hue, I can get a completely different look. I don't know if I'm that satisfied with this, so I'm just going to keep playing around, but have at it. Add an adjustment layer if you're not too excited about what the results are. I think with this one I played around enough. I might move on to the next composition. I'm getting closer to what I like, but it looks like I'm going to adjust that blending mode one more time. I'm going to turn off these layers, hide them, and I'm going to work on my next hand-drawn or hand-painted composition and see what that looks like when I apply blending mode over my original typed composition. And I just am rotating this. Whenever you rotate, or whenever you want to rotate a layer, always make sure you have when you have your move tool on, always make sure to have show transform controls and auto select on. We've covered this before, you might have forgotten, but there are two check boxes up at the top in the options panel. So I'm scrolling through the blending modes here. I really like when the background kind of fades out and it just affects what is darkest. And we'll keep scrolling through those. I really like this. I think that's why I stopped here momentarily. I really like up in that upper right hand corner what's going on. And I think I end up choosing that one as like a finalist. Kind of like this, but I apply that. I want to apply a hue saturation adjustment layer again. So I'm going to go back down to adjustment layer, hue saturation, hold down Alt Option, make that a clipping mask, and then adjust that hue. And let's see if we can get a different color, because that looks like a little bit too Christmassy. Maybe we can get a more interesting, I kind of like that orange blue there. And I think I might stick with that. Finally, we'll do our last composition. I was really looking forward to this one, but I think it may be up up in the air still. I thought this was going to be hands down my favorite, probably because I spent the most time on it, but oftentimes, it's always good to have a lot to choose from. So I encourage you to have like whatever you can make at the ready. So I'm going down my blending modes. A quick shortcut to go through blending modes if you don't want to open up that window is Shift plus, but you have to have your move tool active. The move tool is your first tool. Shift plus goes down the menu and Shift minus goes up the menu. So I'm scrolling through these. I like some. I think I hang out on the ones that I like the most and kind of skip over the ones I don't like really quickly. I'm just rotating this composition to see if I get anything interesting. My favorite thing are those lines, those really hard delineated lines. It looks like something out of the 80s. Maybe it's harkening back to my childhood, but I really like that triangle shape kind of mixed with that circle shape, but we'll keep playing around with it. Maybe add in another adjustment layer and see what we can change in order to get, because the problem with this so far is that I'm missing a lot of the top half of this design. So I might adjust this to see if I can get some of that back. We'll see what happens. So I'm really close here. I can't remember which one I decide on, but the great thing is I have 3 successful ones to pick from. And maybe if I was a student, I would just submit them all. So, from here we can just save out a JPEG and submit that to Blackboard. Have fun, guys. I know this was pretty involved, but take your time and you'll do great. Have fun. Take care.